I am committed to the role here. We are going to do Kings and Generals, early Muslim expansion, starting with, I believe this is season 1. So we got Khalid, Yarmouk, al-Qadisiyah. I said that right. Now we're going to learn a lot. I don't really have much of a baseline besides the Abbasid dynasty. I know a little bit about the Crusades. We're going to do this entire video, not in one setting. Obviously, you can see how much time's in this video. This video is going to be the first part, and you can see on the bottom like the chapters. We have the introduction, and we're going to do the ride. The Rashidun. Did I say that right? Let me know. Check me. Rashidun Caliphate. And then each particular chapter here, so like the Battle of Chains, Battle of the River, no matter if it's a 4-minute chapter or if it's like a 20-minute chapter, we're going to do each in a separate video part. So I believe there's going to be 14 videos for this particular, this particular video. So thank you guys for recommending this, by the way. So if you guys have different recommendations besides Kings and Generals Early Muslim Expansion, because this is a huge playlist, put it down below. I've talked too much. We got to get into this video. Let's get into it right away. I'm glad you're here with me. Let's go.
Almost 1,400 years ago, the ancient and prosperous lands of the Middle East were on the verge of a conflict of 3 empires and 3 religions, 2 of them fighting a constant, bloody and fruitless war for centuries, one a newcomer looking to make its mark. The newcomer was the Rashidun Caliphate, and its arrival would change the history of the region and the world forever. The Roman state was almost constantly at war with the Iranian empires ever since the 2 entities touched borders in the 60s BC, as the Parthian Empire achieved a famous victory at Carrhae. The Roman Republic transitioned into the empire, and then this empire's western portion was lost to foreign.
I like how we have our legend at the top right.
Invasions, leaving only the Eastern Roman Empire, while the Parthian Empire was replaced by the Sassanid Empire. But even then, these 2 states continued to fight. In the 3rd century AD, another factor was introduced to these conflicts, the Ghassanids and the Lakhmids. These 2 Arab tribal confederations migrated from modern Yemen and became the vassal states of the Eastern Roman Empire and the Sassanids respectively.
Okay.
They participated in the Roman-Sassanid wars, often as scouts or raiders detached from the armies, or as light cavalry units within the armies, while also defending both empires from the Arab tribal raids from the south. The populations of these kingdoms worshipped traditional Arab paganism and Monophysite Christianity, and the latter created tensions with.
What is Monophysite Christianity? I know what mono means. Mono means one. Like monotheism? Let me know.
Their suzerains, as the Sassanids were sure that any Christian influence may strengthen their Roman enemies, while the Romans adhered to Miaphysite Orthodox Christianity, which considered Monophysitism to be heretical. The Roman attempts to suppress Monophysitism caused the Ghassanids to rebel against them in the late 6th to early 7th century and weakened Roman support in the area. On the other hand, religious tensions between the Lakhmids and the Sassanids were compounded by the attempts of Shah Khosrow II to control the region directly. In 602, he captured and executed the Lakhmid king Al-Numan III, turning the kingdom into a province administered by a governor. That forced the
and I'm guessing it's probably a governor chosen by him as well.
Lakhmid tribes to ask their Arab brethren to the south for help. Although the allied forces managed to defeat the Sassanid army at Dikar in 609, the Sassanids were able to keep the province under their rule. This sequence of events not only created divided loyalties among the Arab tribes in the region, but effectively stripped the Sassanid border of its traditional buffer. Despite that, the Sassanids were still very strong. In 602, they used the internal strife within the Eastern Roman Empire as a pretense to declare war. The Sassanids scored a number of impressive victories in the first years of the war, and although the Roman noble Heraclius took the throne in 611 and started to stabilize the situation, he wasn't able to slow down the enemy completely. By 621, the Sassanids controlled the South Caucasus, the Levant, Egypt, and most of Anatolia, which marked the largest extent of their territory.
I mean, look, they got a lot. They got the river delta for in terms of Egypt. They have they're going pretty far into modern day Turkey here too. Cheyenne and Sharabaras, those generals. I can see Cyprus is still part of the Eastern Roman Empire, but a different version of the Iberia over there, Albania, Armenia. How far up does it go? Interesting stuff here. This is all the Sassanids. Even Ghassanid is probably a province at this point, right? This is just setting it up.
Even though Emperor Heraclius was forced to fight against the Avars in Europe too, he was able to gain some momentum by winning 2 battles against the Sassanids between 622 and 625. According to some sources, Khosrow enlisted all men capable of fighting and turned the tide again. In 626, an army under Shahrbaraz besieged the capital of the empire, Constantinople, supported by the Avars and Sclaveni from Europe. The Roman Empire was on the brink of destruction, but the defenders of the capital persevered. This was the turning point in the war, as in 627, Heraclius entered an alliance with the leader of the Western Turkic Khaganate, Tonyabku, and together they invaded the Iranian heartland. Heraclius defeated the Sassanids at Nineveh in 627, and threatened the capital Ctesiphon in 628, which prompted the nobles to overthrow Khosrow. His son Kavad II became the next Shah, and signed a peace treaty with Heraclius. The Sassanids paid a war indemnity, but otherwise the conflict
War indemnity, is that reparation?
Achieved nothing, and the 2 exhausted empires returned to the pre-war borders.
Okay.
Meanwhile, to the south, the Arabian Peninsula was going through an upheaval. The population of this peninsula worshipped many religions, from the traditional Arab pagan beliefs to Zoroastrianism, Judaism, and Christianity. The Sassanids controlled the province of Mazun and the eastern portion of Yemen, while the deserts in the central and northern parts of the region were ruled by nomadic Bedouin Arabs.
Right, because there's just not, it's just ecologically, this area in the middle is just dry and desolate. And a lot of this area is dry and desolate. There's a lot of oases. A lot of people think desert is true at all. For example, like the River Nile Delta, which is technically Africa, not necessarily lush at some point. I'm sure there's oases all around here. And correct me if I'm wrong. Pretty much, depending on the valleys, how the rain goes. I believe it says Himyar. There's like a where in modern day Yemen, I believe there's probably like a mountain range that kind of like realizes a valley and mountain scenario. Valley, you're gonna have lush pastures, livestock, agriculture, but behind the mountain, rain doesn't get there, and it creates this vast desert in modern day Saudi Arabia. They're the same for Mazun or Oman.
Their brethren resided in the rich merchant city-states in Hijaz.
Yes.
One of these city-states, called Mecca, was both a religious...
Mecca. We're already at Mecca, okay. I don't even know how old Mecca is, and it's spelled... I know you guys probably can't... M-A-K-K-A...
religious and economic center governed by the Quraysh tribe, trading mostly spices with Aksum, the Romans and the Sassanids.
Okay.
In 570, a boy called Muhammad was born in the Quraysh tribe.
Okay, this is where we start.
As a young man, Muhammad spent his time as a merchant, probably participating in and then leading trade caravans all over the region. As is often the case with traders, Muhammad would meet and converse with members of various religions on his travels. According to the later sources, he started receiving divine revelations sometime in 610. Soon this new prophet began spreading the message of a new religion, Islam, in his home city of Mecca. However, the Meccans didn't receive it well.
And that makes perfect sense. I mean, you look at the same thing with the Romans, with
and in 614 they started to persecute adherents of Islam. All this prompted Muhammad and his followers, the Muslims, to emigrate to Medina in 622. This started a war between the Muslims and Mecca, and by 629 the latter lost and was conquered. According to the early Muslim sources, at this point, sometime in 628, Muhammad sent envoys to the neighboring states, urging their leaders to join Islam and bow to the one God, Allah.
Oh, they're not gonna like that. They're not gonna like.
The Sassanid Shah Khosrow II insulted the Muslim envoy, while the one sent to the Romans was killed in Ghassanid territory. This prompted an attack by a small Muslim army, which was defeated by the Ghassanids and Romans in September of 629 at.
It's just so difficult because, I mean, this isn't the Western Roman Empire. I don't know too much about the Eastern Roman Empire, comparatively to the Western. But in terms of like military organization, the Romans just had it intact. Like they had the legions, had their military campaigns, knew how to strategize, knew how to knew how to attack enemies' weaknesses. How much did that carry over to the Empire? Wondering that one now, but did win right here with help of the Ghassanids.
At Muta. The same sources claim that Muhammad decided to lead a 30,000 strong army into the Byzantines' territory to retaliate, and took the city of Tabuk. However, most modern sources do not agree with this account of events. In any case, the conquests of Muhammad in Arabia continued. By 631, most of the Arabian Peninsula was under Muslim control. Muhammad passed away a year later. There are conflicting sources regarding the succession process, but one of the closest allies of Muhammad, Abu Bakr, became his successor with the title of Caliph.
I'm sorry, I'm so ignorant. How did Muhammad pass away? Curious.
He was the first of the Rashidun Caliphs. In the meantime, Khalid II, who became the Sassanid Shah in February of 628, immediately started killing his brothers to secure the throne, which resulted in deepening disagreements between the Persian and Parthian nobles. Khalid died of plague in September, and although his 8-year-old son became the next Shah as Ardashir III, the empire was controlled by a member of the Parthian clique, the Vizier Ma'ad-Jushnas. This deeply concerned the Persian party, so it allied with Khosrow's general Shahrbaraz.
Okay, that answered my questions from earlier.
The latter attacked and took the capital in April of 630, killing Ardashir and Ma'ad-Jushnas and becoming the Shah. The Sassanid realm was now in a state of civil war. Using all that, the governors of Yemen and Mazun declared their independence from Ctesiphon, which made them easy prey for the rising caliphate. Just 40 days after Shahrbaraz took the throne, he was killed, and the leader of the Parthian faction, Farrukh Hormizd, raised Khosrow's daughter Boran to the throne. This first queen in Sassanid history was overthrown by the son of Shahrbaraz, Shapur, a few months later. To stop the war between the factions, Farrukh offered a marriage between Shapur and another daughter of Khosrow, Azamidokht, but the latter refused, and the noble usurped the throne for himself in late 630. He would be killed by the supporters
Everyone just keeps dying.
of Azamidokht in 631, after which she took the throne for herself. Farrukh's son Rostam marched his troops to Ctesiphon to avenge his father, defeating Azamidokht's armies along the way. After taking the capital, he restored Boran as the queen. The ruling alliance of Boran and Rostam managed to convince the leader of the Persian clique, Pyrrhus, to stop the hostilities. However, after Rostam left the capital for the frontier, Firuzan killed Boran in
It's just like a Game of Thrones over here.
June of 632. Rostam then marched for the capital again.
Here we go again.
According to some sources,
It's that GTA meme.
the armies of both Firuzan and Rostam were tired of the bloodshed and forced their generals to reach an accord. One of the last members of the House of Sasan, the 8-year-old grandson of Khosrow II, was crowned as Yazdegerd III. Although the civil war was now over, the Sassanid realm was extremely vulnerable, as the Parthian clique basically controlled the northeastern portion of the empire, while Turkic raiders attacked from the Caucasus and Central Asia.
Gonna be dealing with that
At
for
the
a
same
long
time, the first caliph Abu Bakr sent a portion of his army under Usama ibn Zayd to raid the Ghassanids in June of 632, possibly checking if the Byzantine frontier was well defended. The death of Muhammad and the departure of his army made a big number of newly conquered Arab territories think that the caliphate was fragile, and in July, all of the peninsula save for Hijaz rebelled against Abu Bakr in what was called the Ridda War, or the War of Apostasy, as many rebel groups were led by people who declared themselves prophets. The situation was most dire around Medina, as the rebels threatened the second most important city of the new realm in late July. However, Abu Bakr swiftly marched to the area and defeated the rebels in early August. That gave enough time for the army, which was sent north and defeated a small Ghassanid army around Muta, to return. Abu Bakr proved to be a talented commander. Instead of uniting his armies and marching on each of the rebel groups separately,
Trying to make sure I don't go over the chapter,
which would have allowed the rebels to attack his rear with impunity, he divided his army into smaller groups, and these units attacked the enemies around the peninsula. This strategy worked to perfection, and by March of 633,
each one won their one-on-one.
The caliph's rule over the entire region was restored. It is difficult to assess how much the caliphate lost in terms of manpower, but the sources underline that the generals and troops gained invaluable experience in this conflict.
That's true.
While the Ridda Wars were going on, the leader of the Arab Bani Bakr tribe, Muthanna bin Haritha, was raiding the Sassanid territories in southern Iraq. The Sassanid civil wars made this frontier subject to attacks, and Muthanna, who adopted Islam sometime in the 630s, informed Abu Bakr of this fact in early 633. The Caliph decided that it was a good time to take over Iraq, and one of his main generals during the Ridda Wars, Khalid ibn al-Walid, was ordered to invade the region.
That's gotta be literally right here. Oh, I got like a couple seconds.
Khalid was able to recruit an army of 18,000 at his base at Yamama and left for Iraq in late March 633.
Okay, it's that time. I need to figure out, when I watch this, the future chapters, I need to figure out what the last second is, time code, so I can just have that in mind. Now, good start. So the Rashidun Caliphate, Caliphate, Muhammad, the call it the originator. And then you have like the in terms of the kind of had the Sassanid valley areas. Throughout time, those places fell apart with the power vacuum. The Ghassanids seem like they have strong support. They're a vassal state. It's still intact. They have strong support from the Eastern Roman Empire, and the Sassanids, they're not huge friends of the Rashiduns quite yet. But there's a lot to unpack here. And we got so much more to watch. I'm excited. That's going to be the end of this video. I appreciate you watching this. Go on and keep watching to the next one. And yeah, Thank you guys so much. Peace out. Bye bye.